You think you know BTS? Think again. Because behind the stage lights, viral fan cams, chart-topping anthems, and million-dollar brand deals lies something far deeper, far more powerful, and far more rare in the world of showbiz: loyalty. Not the kind you throw around in interviews. Not the type sold through scripted documentaries. No, we're talking about real, raw, unshakable loyalty, the kind that survives scandals, fame, mandatory military service, and even the darkest days when the cameras aren't rolling. This isn't fanfiction. This isn't gossip. This is the truth whispered in corridors of Hybe, muttered among stylists during late-night shoots, and quietly passed between veteran staff who've been with BTS from their scrappy big-hit days to their global superstardom. Yes, the Korean staff who have lived, breathed, and bled through the BTS phenomenon are finally talking, and what they reveal might shock you. Because loyalty in BTS isn't just about staying in the group, it's about sacrifice. It's about who waited at the hospital when no one else could. Who gave up their birthday for a fellow member's tears? Who took the fall in public so another member's heart could stay protected? Who never once said, "What about me?" even when the world turned their backs? But let's be real, this is BTS we're talking about. 7 brothers, 7 kings, 7 hearts forged in fire. So when we ask, who is the most loyal? We're not tearing them down. We're looking into the soul of this brotherhood to understand who went the farthest, the longest, and the deepest to prove they'd never walk away. From midnight phone calls to unrecorded studio moments, from acts of quiet devotion to explosive public sacrifices, we're about to break down who ranks where all, based on behind-the-scenes testimony from staff who saw it all. And trust us, this list will flip everything you thought you knew. So buckle up, don't blink, because what you're about to hear has never been revealed like this before. Let's count it down from respect to reverence to the member who'd take a bullet without thinking twice. Welcome to the ultimate loyalty ranking of BTS. Next up, number 7, and we promise, even being 7th in this list already means you're more loyal than 99% of the industry. Shall we begin? Number 7. RM, the leader who carries everyone's burden silently. From the outside, Kim Namjoon, better known as RM, is the unshakable foundation of BTS, the leader, the thinker, the one who gives speeches at the UN and keeps his cool while representing 7 hearts on a global stage. But beneath that intellectual calm, there's a quiet storm of sacrifice that most people miss, a form of loyalty, so subtle, so silent, that even the other members don't always see it. And maybe that's what makes RM's loyalty the most tragic of all. Because RM has always believed that a good leader never complains, never breaks, never says, "I'm tired." So he never did. Let's take you back to the early trainee days when Bang Si-hyuk was still assembling what would become BTS. RM was already there. He was the first, the original, the one chosen. And that meant every time someone new joined Jin, Suga, J-Hope, Jimin, V, Jungkook, it was RM who had to befriend them, guide them, and make sure they didn't quit. He watched dreams get crushed, friendships fail, people give up, but he stayed. When money was low and the dorm was cramped and the company was on the brink of collapse, he stayed. Not because he had to, but because he promised he would. That's the thing about RM, he never makes many promises. But when he does, he keeps them like sacred vows. He once said in an old interview, "If this fails, I want it to fail with all 7 of us trying." That might sound poetic now, but back then, it was terrifying. Because RM wasn't just the leader by name, he was also the emotional sponge of the group. Every panic attack, every doubt, every mistake the members made, RM took responsibility. Remember the time Jungkook fainted on stage? RM was the one who sat in the emergency room all night. When Jimin faced body image issues, RM was the one who deleted fan comments before Jimin could see them. When Suga fought depression and isolation, RM cancelled his own schedule to sit in the studio and just listen. And he never told anyone. Not the fans, not the media, sometimes not even the members. But loyalty is a double-edged sword, and RM knows that better than anyone, because the higher BTS flew, the heavier the crown became. As their leader, RM bore the pressure not just of his own success, but of 6 other careers. One mistake, one wrong word, and it could all crash down. And yet, he never asked for relief. In fact, he defended the members more than he defended himself. There was that one moment in 2018 after a grueling world tour when tabloids started swirling rumors about internal conflict. RM could have denied it, could have stayed quiet. Instead, he stepped up during an interview and said, "We fight, we cry, but at the end of the day, we're brothers, and I'd go down with them if that's what it takes." He didn't have to say that, but he did, because that's who he is. Even the Korean staff admit, RM is often the one who checks on them after long nights. He sends thank you texts. He remembers birthdays. He brings coffee for managers when they look exhausted, not because he has to, but because he notices. He sees everything, one wardrobe stylist said anonymously. But he never makes a scene about it, he just carries it inside. But why is RM at number 7? Because his loyalty comes with a cost, he sacrifices himself too much. Loyalty isn't just about how much you give, it's also about how you protect yourself while giving. And RM often forgets that. He internalizes everything. He overthinks. He blames himself for things that were never his fault. It's a quiet, painful kind of loyalty, the kind that can go unnoticed. The kind that almost broke him in 2021, when BTS was hitting their commercial peak but RM was visibly exhausted, both mentally and emotionally. Yet, he never left. He never took a break without making sure everyone else was okay first. He never made a solo move unless it aligned with BTS's future. Even his solo album, Indigo, was a love letter to his identity within BTS, not away from them. "I wouldn't exist without them," he said once, eyes misty. "Everything I am is because of them." So yes, RM may be number 7 on this list, but don't get it twisted. In a world where loyalty is often loud and performative, RM's is quiet, spiritual, and indestructible. He doesn't need applause. He doesn't chase recognition. He just shows up, every day, without fail. No matter how heavy the load. No matter how broken he feels. Because deep down, Namjoon isn't just loyal to BTS, he is BTS. Number 6, Suga, the silent protector behind the curtain. If loyalty had a sound, Suga's would be the quiet beat under every BTS track, steady, reliable, and always present, even if you don't notice it at first. To the public, Min Yoongi is often seen as the most aloof member, stoic, calm, detached. The kind of guy who says very little, avoids the spotlight, and rarely breaks his poker face. But ask any longtime staff member, any producer, any behind-the-scenes crew, and they'll tell you, when everything falls apart, Suga is the one who holds it together. Not with dramatic speeches or grand gestures, but with actions so loyal, so deliberate, they redefine what it means to be ride or die. Let's rewind to BTS's early days, when the group was still performing in half-filled halls, and fans could literally count each other in the audience. Suga was the one pulling 20-hour studio sessions. He wasn't just rapping, he was producing, composing, arranging, mixing, writing lyrics for not just himself, but for everyone else. And he wasn't getting paid more to do it. In fact, he was barely getting paid at all. There was a moment when he had to choose between buying food or replacing a broken MIDI controller. Guess what he chose? Loyalty to the music, loyalty to the dream, loyalty to his team. But loyalty, for Suga, wasn't about staying in the group, it was about ensuring the group survived. There's an infamous story among BTS crew about a moment during their 2015 High YH tour. One of the vocal line members was going through a severe mental health dip so bad that they almost didn't make it on stage. The managers panicked. The stylists cried. No one knew what to do, until Suga, calm, calculated, and brutally honest, walked into the dressing room and sat with the member. No cameras, no words, just presence. They say he didn't leave until the member got up and said, "Hyung, I'll go on stage." That performance happened because Suga stayed. That's who he is. The one who doesn't push you to stand up, but will kneel beside you until you're ready. And then there's his loyalty to the staff, which many fans never see. Suga is known in the company for never missing a technician's name. He remembers the sound engineer who worked with him once in 2014. He still sends gifts to the producer who helped him polish Tomorrow. When a junior composer was harshly criticized by a top exec during a mixing session, Suga waited until everyone left, then called the kid into his studio and said, "You did good. Don't let that break you." That kid now works full-time for Hybe. Coincidence? No. Loyalty. Even when Suga got injured a torn shoulder that had been bothering him for years, he kept going. Quietly. Silently. He didn't use it as an excuse. He didn't miss practice. He didn't tell fans until it got so bad he had to get surgery. And even then? He apologized. To the members, to the staff, to ARMY. He was in pain and he apologized. Because to him, being there for the team was more important than his own body. That's not just loyalty. That's self-erasure. It's love, warped into sacrifice. But why is he number 6? Because Suga's loyalty, while profound, is deeply internal. He doesn't communicate it openly. He doesn't let the members, or even the fans, fully understand the weight he carries, and sometimes that quietness creates distance. There were times when members misunderstood him, thinking he was cold, when in reality, he was just protecting them from his own storm. Loyalty, after all, isn't just about staying. It's also about letting people in, and Suga struggles with that. Still, his devotion to BTS is etched in every piano key, every boom-bap beat, every line he writes at 3 a.m. while the others sleep. His solo identity, August D, may sound like rebellion, but even that is an extension of his loyalty. Because August D exists so Suga can stay balanced enough to give 100% to BTS. He once said in a V Live, "Even if I'm alone in a hotel room after a concert, I still think about what we could have done better as a team." Who thinks like that after performing for 50,000 screaming fans? Someone whose loyalty is not to fame, but to the bond. Suga doesn't wear his loyalty on his sleeve, he embeds it into the DNA of BTS, like a ghost in the machine, ensuring everything works, no matter how broken he feels inside. Min Yoongi doesn't need to say "I love you" to BTS out loud. He already wrote that love into every song that saved them when the world wasn't listening. Number 5. J-Hope, the sunshine who never walks away. If loyalty had a heartbeat, it would sound like Jung Ho-seok's laughter echoing through the halls of Habe, bright, warm, unbreakable. And yet, if you think J-Hope's loyalty is just about smiles and good vibes, buckle up. Because this story is deeper, heavier, and way more gut-punching than you'd ever expect. Hobie, the mood maker, the dancer, the one who always cheers others up, hides behind that sunshine a level of emotional loyalty that is rare even in the closest brotherhoods. The kind of loyalty that costs you your comfort, your spotlight, even your identity. And staff say, if there's anyone who's always there, it's J-Hope. Let's go way back to 2012. BTS wasn't BTS yet. Just a chaotic mess of trainees, dreams, and pressure. J-Hope was this close to quitting. He had doubts. The system was unfair. Others were getting more attention. He didn't feel heard. But what stopped him? Jungkook, Jimin, Taehyung. They cried. Hobie admitted years later. They asked me to stay, so he did. And from that moment on, J-Hope decided his loyalty wouldn't be conditional. Not based on screen time, not based on appreciation. He'd commit fully even if it meant sacrificing himself. That loyalty would show itself in quiet, painful ways, like during award season, when others gave tearful speeches, Hobie would stand in the back, smiling. Like during variety shows, when the camera panned to other members for the jokes, Hobie would be the one laughing the loudest, just to keep the energy up. And behind the scenes, he was the glue. He's the only member who checks on every staff's mood before each show, one longtime road manager revealed. He always asks if they've eaten, if they're tired, even if he just flew 14 hours from LA. There's one story that still circulates quietly among the Hybe hair and makeup crew. During a brutal rehearsal for the 2018 Mama Awards, one of the stylists was having a rough day, a family emergency. No one knew, except Hobie. He noticed she wasn't talking. At midnight, he left a hot coffee and a note at her station. No signature. Just a scribble. "I see you. You're not alone. Thank you for always making us look good." That stylist said she cried in the bathroom for 30 minutes not because of the stress, but because someone saw her when she was invisible. That's Hoseok. That's loyalty. Even with the members, his loyalty has no expiration date. Remember when Jimin went through harsh online bullying during his Promise release? J-Hope was the first to publicly post support. When RM was facing pressure during group speeches, Hobie would always echo him, nodding and smiling as if to say, "You got this, bro." And don't even get us started on how he treats Jungkook. He once said, "I treat him like my real little brother." That wasn't a metaphor. Behind the scenes, J-Hope is the one who walks Jungkook back to the hotel room when he's exhausted. The one who checks if he's eaten. The one who notices when he's too quiet and fills the space with laughter, so it doesn't feel heavy. But let's talk about the hardest form of loyalty. Showing up even when it's not about you. In 2020, when the group exploded globally with Dynamite, it would have been easy to feel lost in the noise. Hobie had fewer lines. Less screen time. Fans started noticing. Some even said he was being pushed aside. Did he complain? Did he pout? No. He worked harder. He trained longer in dance. He supported every member's solo release with full smiles. When asked if he was okay, he said, "I'm proud of the team. I'll shine in my own time." And when the military enlistment plan began to unfold, Hobie shocked everyone. He volunteered to go earlier than expected, not to escape, but to make it easier for the others. He said, "I wanted to set a good example, make the path smoother." What kind of person does that? Someone whose loyalty is bigger than fame, bigger than fear, bigger than himself. So why is J-Hope only number 5? Because Hobie's loyalty, while bright and powerful, sometimes hides his own struggles. He pushes his needs down so far that even his brothers miss them. It's not about lacking loyalty, it's about overgiving to the point of personal erasure. Loyalty, at its core, should be balanced, and Hobie often tips the scale too far toward everyone else. But maybe that's his superpower. Maybe being the silent cheerleader, the eternal encourager, is the most sacred kind of loyalty there is, the kind you don't post about, the kind you don't need credit for, the kind that says, as long as you're okay, I'm okay. J-Hope's loyalty doesn't scream, it doesn't demand, it just shows up every single time with a smile, a hand on your shoulder, and the kind of energy that reminds you, you're not alone. Number 4. V, the wild card who chose brotherhood over fame. Now, if you were to ask fans which BTS member is the most unpredictable, most spontaneous, most likely to disappear into the night on a solo jazz adventure in Paris, the answer is always the same: Kim Taehyung. V is the enigma, the artist, the one who seems to float somewhere between stardom and solitude. But what if we told you that behind that mysterious aura lies one of the fiercest, most unexpected loyalties in the entire group? Because when it comes to moments that test your soul, loyalty isn't always about being loud, visible, or consistent. Sometimes it's about the moment you could have left, but chose to stay. And V? He stayed in ways that shocked even the people closest to him. You see, Taehyung wasn't supposed to debut with BTS. He was the secret trainee, the hidden card Bang Si-hyuk kept quiet about, so quiet that even the fandom didn't know he existed until days before the debut teaser. Most idols would have felt insecure, even bitter. Not Taehyung. He never questioned why he was kept a secret. He never asked for the spotlight. He just showed up, every single day, ready to prove his worth. And when the members found out he was joining them, he didn't say, finally. He said, thank you for letting me be part of this. That wasn't humility. That was loyalty right from the start. But Taehyung's loyalty isn't the kind you see in speeches or fan service. His is buried in the quiet, hard choices. When other idols were jumping into solo fame, endorsements, acting gigs, V was getting offers too, huge ones, lead roles in dramas, fashion brands begging for exclusivity, but he turned so many of them down because he wanted to build BTS first. We rise together, he once said, when asked why he didn't pursue more solo projects early on. This isn't about me, it's about us. Let's talk about the infamous Brit Awards backstage moment in 2022. A high-profile Western artist, we won't name names, was overheard saying, V could go solo anytime and be 10 times more famous. And you know what Taehyung did? He smiled, shook the artist's hand, and then turned back to the members, literally took Jungkook's hand and said, let's go together. A stylist who witnessed it said, that moment gave me chills. He wasn't just being polite, he meant it. Even when his own career was at a turning point, he didn't waver. During the production of Layover, his solo album, many expected V to finally break free, to distance himself from BTS identity and claim a new artistic persona, but instead, he filled the project with reflections of who he became because of BTS. From the visuals, to the sound, to the vulnerability, it was clear, even when he was solo, he was never alone. That's not branding, that's belief, that's blood-deep loyalty. One staff member confessed that during a particularly exhausting tour leg, Taehyung was offered the option to rest during a group rehearsal due to fatigue. Everyone encouraged him to take it. He refused. Not because he felt pressured, but because he said, if even one of us isn't there, it doesn't feel like BTS. That's Taehyung in a sentence. The member who might vanish into an art gallery in the middle of Berlin, but will always return when it counts. Now, let's talk about one of the most overlooked stories. In 2019, a former backup dancer was injured in a stage mishap during Boy With Love rehearsal. Most members didn't even know it happened. It was chaos. But V noticed. He stayed after rehearsal, helped the dancer gather their things, and walked them to the car. He didn't say a word about it. No one would have known until that dancer shared it anonymously years later, saying, he's the only idol who ever looked at me like a human being, not a prop. I'll never forget that. So why is V at number 4? Because his loyalty comes in bursts of intense, soul-shaking clarity, but not always in the day-to-day. He's not the one to check everyone's meals or send long text messages. But when the big tests come, when the group is challenged, when choices must be made, V never, ever chooses himself over the group. And that, in an industry built on ego and survival, is almost impossible to find. He once told a writer, I could be many things alone, but I only want to be great if it's with them. That's not just loyalty. That's bonded destiny. So don't be fooled by the Gucci suits, the jazz lounges, or the dreamy stares into space. Beneath that ethereal surface is a man who has made the conscious choice, again and again, to stand beside 6 brothers even when the world told him to fly alone. And that is why Taehyung, the wild card, the icon, the mystery, stands tall at number 4. Number 3. Jimin, the empath who bleeds loyalty without words. There's a kind of loyalty that speaks loud, and then there's a kind that you feel deep in your chest, like a quiet warmth that never goes away. That's Park Jimin, the heart of BTS, the protector of every fragile moment, the one who carries everyone else's emotions as if they were his own. If loyalty were defined by how much you're willing to feel for someone, Jimin would be number 1. But this isn't just about being kind. Jimin's loyalty is carved out of pain, built through sacrifice, and expressed not through grand declarations, but through the kind of love that never asks to be seen. Back in the earliest days, Jimin wasn't supposed to debut. He didn't fit the mold. He was a late trainee. He was told his face was too cute, and his dancing too dramatic. The pressure to stay was immense. But Jimin didn't quit. Why? Because he wasn't just fighting for his dream, he was fighting for the dream of the group. The staff at Big Hit still remember those grueling days, when Jimin would show up hours early to practice his vocals and dancing until his knees gave out. He was desperate, one trainer said, but not for himself. He kept saying, "I don't want to disappoint the team." That was 2013. It's still true now. Let's talk about how Jimin lives his loyalty. Every time a member cried on stage, backstage, in interviews, Jimin was there. Not just physically. Emotionally, he holds their hands, looks them in the eye, and most importantly, he makes them feel safe enough to fall apart. That's rare. That's sacred. In 2018, during a backstage rehearsal before the Love Yourself tour, Taehyung broke down, overworked, emotionally overwhelmed. Jimin didn't say, "You'll be okay." He sat in silence next to him for over an hour, holding his hand, just breathing with him. That's loyalty. No cameras, no Instagram post, just presence. That's Jimin's power. And then there's Jungkook. If you've followed BTS for more than 10 minutes, you know the bond between Jimin and Jungkook isn't just brotherly, it's foundational. From waking him up in the mornings, to tucking him in during exhausting tour nights, Jimin became the emotional armor around Jungkook's raw ambition. There's a moment in Burn the Stage when Jungkook is too sick to perform and it's Jimin who steps off stage, mid-performance, to check on him. Not because he had to, but because he felt it. Because Jungkook's pain was his own. Even Suga, notoriously hard to read, once said, "When Jimin tells you he's here for you, you believe it. Because he's already proven it." And he has. Again, and again, and again. But let's go even deeper. In 2020, right as BTS's global fame was exploding, the pandemic hit. The world shut down. Everyone was scared. Everyone was uncertain. Members were isolated in their own spaces. Jimin became the anchor. He was the one texting every member at night, sending songs, encouraging words. During one live broadcast, when the other members were visibly struggling with the loss of concerts and connection, Jimin smiled and said, "We'll be okay." But after the cameras went off, he cried. Not because he was sad, but because he didn't want to burden the others with his sadness. That's loyalty, the kind that hurts. And it doesn't stop at the members. Ask any staff, any manager, any makeup artist. They'll tell you the same thing. Jimin is the one who remembers the small things. Birthdays, health issues, favorite snacks. One wardrobe assistant even shared that after a particularly long tour, Jimin noticed she was limping. He ordered a custom ankle brace and left it on her desk. No note, no signature, just care, quiet, consistent, real. So why is Jimin number 3? Because his loyalty, though overwhelming and beautiful, is also burdensome. He often gives so much of himself that there's nothing left for him. And while that's noble, it's also painful. Jimin has faced intense mental health struggles, some public, some private, and yet, he never lets it interfere with how he shows up for others. But we must ask, who holds Jimin when he falls? The answer, heartbreakingly, is often no one. Because Jimin doesn't ask. He doesn't want to be a burden. His loyalty is so pure, it becomes a prison of emotional self-sacrifice. Still, through it all, Jimin has never wavered. Not once. When others faced hate, he defended them. When others questioned their place, he reassured them. When others felt invisible, he made them feel seen. His loyalty isn't performative. It isn't conditional. It's etched into his DNA. And no matter where BTS goes next, into military, solo careers, marriages, aging Jimin's heart will always be tethered to the people he loves. He doesn't need to be the loudest. He doesn't need to be first. He just needs to be there fully, deeply, selflessly. And he always is. That's why when the Korean staff were asked, who would run barefoot through a storm for the members without telling anyone? The answer was unanimous. Jimin. Every time. Number 2. Jungkook, the golden maknae who'd burn the world to protect BTS. He's the youngest, the prodigy, the all-rounder who sings like an angel, dances like fire, and has the kind of global magnetism that breaks records in every language. But strip away the stadium lights, the billions of streams, and the tattoos, and what you'll find beneath Jungkook is something far more powerful than talent. A loyalty that borders on feral. Jungkook isn't just protective, he's possessive when it comes to BTS. Not in a toxic way. In a, you're my family, and I will bleed for you without hesitation, kind of way. Let's start with the basics. Jungkook joined BTS when he was 15 years old. A literal kid, he had offers from 7 different agencies, including the biggest names in K-pop, but he didn't choose them. He chose Big Hit. Why? Because of RM. I didn't know anything about companies, Jungkook once said, but I saw how Namjoon Young rapped, and I knew I had to follow him. That moment, that pure, instinctual decision, laid the foundation for a loyalty that has only grown sharper with time. In the early years, Jungkook wasn't just the youngest, he was the glue. When the Hyungs fought, he mediated. When practice got hard, he trained even harder to inspire them. When fans weren't there yet, and the money wasn't coming in, he smiled anyway because his loyalty wasn't to success, it was to the people around him, the members, the dream, the brotherhood. Let's go to 2016, a pivotal year. BTS was starting to gain momentum. Jungkook could have started branching out. CF deals, variety shows, solo features. Instead, he poured everything into strengthening BTS's unit performance. He refused solo offers if they interfered with group schedules. When a label executive asked him why he wasn't pushing himself more, Jungkook replied, "What good is being the best alone if the others aren't with me?" But the real depth of Jungkook's loyalty began showing in the moments off camera in the shadows. Staff share stories that feel like urban legends. One road manager said that during a particularly intense US tour, the group had a security breach at a hotel. Jungkook was the first to jump up, literally standing between the door and the other members while staff scrambled. He didn't even think, the manager said. He just moved. Like his body knew protect them first. And then there's the infamous moment during the Wings tour. A fan threw an object on stage. Jimin, caught off guard, stumbled. Jungkook's smile vanished. He stormed to Jimin's side mid-choreography, breaking formation, shielding him with his body. After the concert, he stayed up arguing with security about better crowd control. "Don't let them get hurt because of us," he said. "It's my responsibility too." But Jungkook's loyalty isn't just reactive, it's proactive. He constantly studies his Hyungs, their habits, their moods, their pressure points. If Jin's quiet, he cracks a joke. If Suga's tired, he offers a massage. If J-Hope's overworking, he pulls him into a break. If RM's anxious, he sits next to him, silently, just existing. There's a reason fans call him the emotional thermostat of BTS, because he adjusts himself to balance everyone else. And, oh, the tattoos? They aren't just ink, they're loyalty symbols. The 0613 on his hand, BTS's debut date. The word ARMY woven into his knuckles, a permanent reminder of who he belongs to. He could have had anything, dragons, quotes, skulls, but he chose to mark his love on his skin. Let's talk about military enlistment. Jungkook could have delayed. He had every right. He's younger, busier. Just launched a massive solo era. But what did he do? He enlisted right after Jin, just months after J-Hope, and shoulder to shoulder with Jimin, V, and RM. Why? Because, I want to walk this road together, no one left behind. That's not loyalty, that's sacrifice. That's code. That's warrior spirit. But here's the twist. Jungkook's loyalty is so strong, it sometimes becomes dangerous. To himself. He pushes too hard, trains too long, blames himself when others hurt. He once said, "When a member cries, I feel like I failed to protect them." That's not healthy, but it's real. It's who he is. The Hyungs joke that Jungkook is like a golden retriever, always chasing their shadows, never leaving their side. But behind that playful image is a guardian, forged from fire and love. Why is Jungkook number 2? Because he would take a bullet for BTS. Because he would walk away from the industry if it ever meant choosing between his career or the members. Because his love is unconditional, not based on lines, age, money, or clout. He protects them, celebrates them, and most importantly, never forgets that without them he's just a voice. With BTS, he's a force of nature. Jungkook isn't just loyal. He's branded in it. Etched in it. Fueled by it. If loyalty was a battlefield, Jungkook would be on the front line, fists up, heart wide open, saying, "Come at me. I'll take it all, just don't touch my brothers." Number 1. Jin, the eldest who chose the team over himself every time. Here it is, the moment we've all been building toward. The top of the mountain. The member whose loyalty isn't just known, it's legendary. In a group filled with unwavering love and sacrifice, it takes something extraordinary to stand above the rest. And that something is Kim Seokjin. Jin, the oldest Hyung. The one fans call worldwide handsome, but the Korean staff, they call him the Shield. Because in ways both public and painfully hidden, Jin has carried the group's emotional weight for over a decade, choosing their peace over his pride, their safety over his success, and their future over his own spotlight. Again, and again, and again. Let's be honest, at first glance, you might not expect this. Jin, after all, is often the comic relief, the one throwing dad jokes in interviews, the one screaming, "Eat Jin," with fried chicken in hand, the one goofing off at award shows with ridiculous facial expressions. But here's the truth, the staff and members know behind the scenes. Jin is the emotional bedrock of BTS, the member who hides the most pain, absorbs the most tension, and yet complains the least. Why? Because that's what older brothers do. They don't ask for thanks, they just protect. Go back to 2013. BTS had just debuted. Jin was inexperienced, untrained in dance, and constantly criticized for not being idol material. He heard the comments, he read the articles, he knew the fans doubted him, but he stayed. He worked harder than anyone. He trained until his toes bled and his body gave out. Not to prove them wrong, but to prove to the members that he would never be their weak link. That's loyalty, the kind that bleeds in private. But it's not just about effort, it's about decisions. And Jin has made some of the most selfless decisions in BTS history. In 2018, when the group faced immense internal pressure, when military enlistment loomed, when contract renewals were uncertain, when BTS was at risk of breaking apart, it was Jin who stepped forward first and said, "I'll go to the military. I'll do it now if it means the others can rest, or continue, or choose freely." That declaration changed everything. The members were crying. Managers were shocked. One executive later confessed, "That moment was the glue." Jin showed everyone that no one was being abandoned, that he would sacrifice first. He meant it, and when the time came in 2022, he kept that promise. He was the first to enlist. Alone. No concerts, no fanfare, just a quiet departure for them. But it's not just the military. Jin has shielded the members in countless, invisible ways. When scandals threatened to touch them, Jin met with staff privately to strategize protection. When reporters asked invasive questions, Jin redirected. When haters attacked a member online, Jin fought back using his own popularity to drown out the noise. When fans worried about Jungkook's privacy, Jin escorted him personally through airports, placing himself between cameras and his younger brother. And when Jimin felt the weight of mental health, when Taehyung cried over family struggles, when Suga locked himself away in depression, Jin was the one who knocked on their doors. Not with speeches, not with pity, with presence, with snacks, with dumb jokes, with the kind of warmth that says, "You don't have to talk, you just have to know I'm here." One staff member, who's worked on every BTS album since School Love Affair, said, "Jin is the member who asks you if you're okay even when he's limping, even when he's sick, even when he just cried before coming to set." That's not idle behavior. That's not PR. That's real loyalty. And then there's his solo career, or the lack of it. Jin could have gone solo years ago. Labels begged, producers offered. His voice, tone, and visual appeal made him a guaranteed hit. But he refused anything that pulled attention from BTS. He said no to dramas, no to albums, no to variety appearances, unless they benefited the whole team. His first major solo single, The Astronaut. A love letter to ARMY, co-written with Coldplay. Not a flex. Not a self-centered moment. A gift. And when he performed it live, hours before enlistment, he smiled, waved, laughed, then cried off stage alone. Why? Because he didn't want the others to feel bad. That's who Jin is. Why is he number one? Because Jin's loyalty doesn't come and go with mood. It doesn't disappear under pressure. It doesn't get loud. It's steady, daily, constant, unshakable. He doesn't say he'd die for BTS, he lives every day like he already has. And that's a kind of loyalty you can't fake. You can't copy. You can't even explain fully unless you've seen it with your own eyes. Which is why every single Korean staff member we spoke to, from drivers to vocal coaches to stage crew, said the same thing when asked, who would sacrifice everything for BTS without hesitation? Kim Seokjin. Always. Without question. Because Jin isn't just BTS's oldest, he's BTS's shield, their backbone, their silent promise that no matter how big the world gets, he will never let them fall. That is loyalty.